Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg, and I am here today to do a Friday Reads video where I wrap up the week in reading and any bookish things that have gone on. And this week, my Friday Reads is a bit of a lie. Traditionally, I film my Friday Reads video on a Friday and then schedule it to post on Saturday. So at least technically, it is a Friday Reads video because I film it on a Friday. This week, that is a complete lie. Because as I am filming this, it is Thursday, and I'm still going to schedule it to post on Saturday. So Friday ain't got nothing to do with it. The reason I'm doing it this way is twofold. I'll talk more when I get into the Friday Reads portion of the video, which is going to be a little bit light because I took a break from reading this week. I'll talk a little bit about why later on when we get to the Friday Reads portion of the video. But so because I took a break from reading, I don't really have reading updates that are going to be changed if I film tomorrow compared to today. The other part is that on Friday, the National Book Awards are going to announce their long list for fiction. They have already announced the other categories. Fiction is the one straggler. I'm really excited about the young people's literature list, and I actually put a hold on one of the books already, The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, I think. It's on Scribd, the audio, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll talk a little more when I film that video, which is going to be tomorrow because, again, since they're announcing the long list tomorrow and I want to do a reaction video, I'm going to have to film a reaction tomorrow and then quickly edit it and turn it around so I can make it go live on the channel. With my job, that's a difficult thing to do in one day. So filming a Friday Reads and then editing that and scheduling it for Saturday would be like one extra thing on my plate. So I was thinking about it today, and given that I won't have any reading updates before tomorrow, I thought to myself, why not just film today? So that's my excuse for why Friday has nothing to do with this week's Friday Reads. Forgive me, it is what it is, so I can live my life and reduce my stress a little bit. I am sorry, Jamie is not going to be in this video, at least not the way it looks right now, because she's sitting in a chair staring at me just off camera, like behind where my phone is. So I'm just sitting on the couch with her little lamb chop. She's been cozying up to this. She's been in my last two Friday Reads videos, so now this is a bit of a change of pace, but she's here. She's just not on the couch with me. The things I want to talk about before I get into the Friday Reads, or rather the explanation for why I took a break from reading this week, is that I want to talk about Banned Books Week. Oh, I should also mention that since by the time you watch this, the long list for the National Book Awards will have been announced. I will put a link to it in the description box down below. What is time? It means nothing because right now I don't have it, but by the time you watch it, I will, and that video will hopefully exist, unless something goes terribly wrong. So it'll be in the description box down below. But I wanted to talk about Banned Books Week. So that is going to be September 18th through 24th. And of course, it is when you are encouraged to read books that have been banned or challenged. And I did a video about some of my favorite banned books. I'll link that down below as well. And I want to participate. So once I finish the audio that I am currently listening to, I plan to make sure I get to Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison. The audio of Lawn Boy is on Scribd, so it's available for me. And when I looked up the most challenged books, it's up there. It's one of the most challenged books in the United States that I have not already read. And the reason is so silly because it has sexual content. Now, no judgment. I totally understand why someone would want to restrict their child or their teenager's access to sexually explicit content. But, you know, it's such a weird thing to gatekeep and shame when really, in my opinion, it's something that should be educated more. Like, teach kids proper ways to have healthy sexual relationships with other people, and our society would be so much better. Creating a sense of shame around it and restricting it and making it prohibited and not talking about it makes more of a problem in the long run. Like, my parents had open, honest conversations about sex with me, and I'm not saying I turned out great, but I certainly turned out fine. So I think I particularly have a bit of an eye roll when sexual content or language is the reason that a book is banned. Like, I understand trigger warnings at the same time. Like, if a book contains scenes of sexual abuse or something like that, and that is a particular trigger for you, by all means, avoid it. But if you're just objecting to the existence of sexual content, it seems odd to me. So anyway, I plan to listen to that next week. I'm also thinking that I am going to reread the 2 volumes of Mouse by Art Spiegelman, which kind of ties into the National Book Award because he is receiving an award this year for his career. And it just seems like a really timely thing to do for Banned Books Week, and in light of the fact that he's getting an award from the National Book Foundation. So I am probably going to try to cram these in as well. Should be pretty easy to do because they are graphic novels or graphic memoirs, and those usually read really quickly. So I think I can get these in without adding a lot of stress to my plate. Because Lawn Boy is available on audio, should be really easy to throw into the mix as well, again, without adding a whole lot of stress to my plate. These really heavily deal with the Holocaust, which is not the stated objection to these books, is more like of the content within. But really, it deals with the Holocaust and the rippling effect of trauma on people whose families were killed as part of the Holocaust. So yeah, I will probably try to reread these next week as well. And I would love to hear if you are going to be participating in Banned Books Week and what book you are going to be picking out to read for yourself. Again, I will have a video down below where I talk about some of my favorites. Genderqueer by Maya Kababe is one of the most challenged books, and it's really great. So I would recommend checking that one out. Other than the National Book Award long list announcements, not much bookish has gone on this week. So let's just move into the actual Friday Reads portion of the video where I talk about the not much that I have to report. If you recall, when I had my last Friday Reads video, I was reading 2 books. I actually have my copy of The Marriage Portrait now. For whatever reason, the mail was just really slow. Usually, if Montana Book Company mails me something, it takes a day for it to get here. They sent this to me on Tuesday when it was released, and it didn't get here until Saturday. So it's fine. It's here. I was listening to it on audio anyway. So I had started the audio of that. I was at 48% and enjoying it so far. I have not made any progress since then. I am still at 48% of the way through. I didn't listen to it over the weekend, and I intended to get back to it on Monday, but then I just decided to sort of extend the break, and I've been listening to podcasts. I'll talk about that in a moment. So still at 48% on The Marriage Project. And in print, I was reading Now in November by Josephine Johnson. I did make progress on this, but not too much. If you recall, I think I was on page 19 when I checked in with you last, and I'm on page 47 now. So roughly 30 pages, a little less. This is for my Pulitzer Prize project. Really enjoying this book. I've been taking a lot of notes. I had almost filled one side of an index card last week, and I filled that side, so I had to move on to another index card, and I'm only about 50 pages into the book. I am kind of obsessively taking notes because it's for my Pulitzer Prize project, and I'm trying to pick up on things that may or may not be relevant as the book continues, but I'd like to note them down just in case. So working my way through on this slowly. I think Sunday we had to sit down with Jamie and some coffee. Jamie might start barking or growling because somebody across the street came home. How dare they? Just FYI, in case you hear growling, that's why. So that's my progress in that. And then I didn't really make any more progress on it during the week. The problem with this one is that because I'm taking notes, it's a little more difficult. Like, I can't just pick it up during the day. I need to be in a place where I can have, to get my pen out and be able to write if I need to. And that makes it a little difficult in bed at night if I'm going to be reading before bed. Not a terrible burden. I could certainly work past that. I just haven't really felt like it this week. So I mentioned in my last 2 Friday Reads videos that I just was, struggling a little bit mentally, emotionally, with a lot of different things going on, mostly stemming back to losing Guinness back in June. And I felt myself on the verge of a reading slump last week. I didn't mention that in my Friday Reads video, but I could feel it emotionally, like I was at the point of hitting a slump. And not because of the books. Again, I'm really enjoying both of these. It's no comment on the quality of those books. But I felt myself on the verge of a slump. And traditionally, when that has happened since I've had a channel, I try to fight back against it and maybe make a pivot, try to add another book on top of the ones that I'm currently reading that's going to help generate some activity, like maybe pivot to a Sue Grafton book or like a YA queer romance book. That usually does the trick as well. Because the thing is, when you have a channel, it feels almost like you're cheating or cheaping out by having a Friday Reads update where you don't actually have any reading updates. It feels like you really got to work to keep up and have content to talk about. It's like an added layer of pressure that you kind of put on yourself and your reading. When sometimes, especially if you're like me, I'm a mood reader by nature, so I don't do well with TBRs. Like, I like to finish a book and then decide what my next read is. I don't like to, especially when I'm only halfway through The Marriage Portrait, I don't actually like saying that Lawn Boy is going to be my next book. Audio, I actually have an easier time with it, and especially with the circumstances with banned book weeks, I just want to leave room open that once I finish The Marriage Portrait, maybe I'm going to be in the mood to do something else and I might pick something else up. So I like to leave room open because it happens a lot. Like, Now in November was not the book that I thought was going to be the next one that I read for my Pulitzer Prize project, but it ended up being that, and that's fine. I just like having the flexibility. And I also like to have a little more flexibility in the timing of a book. Like, if I don't feel like reading one day, I don't like to pressure myself to do it, generally speaking. And if I finish a book and want to take a day or two to sort of digest and process before moving on to the next book, I generally like to do that as well. But again, when you have a channel, it creates this artificial sense of urgency to get on to the next book. And I love it. I'm not going to stop, but it is a thing. And, I'm in my 3rd year on BookTube now. And I'm pretty sure, I would have to go back and look, but I think every time I've felt a slump coming on, I've fought back against it. And this time, with all that, added mental and emotional stuff going on, I didn't feel like fighting it. I felt like just letting it happen and coming back when I'm ready. And I think I'm feeling ready at this point. I might take the weekend and see how that goes. I know Saturday Jamie has a haircut appointment fairly early, so we're not going to really be able to sit with coffee and read like we normally would on a Saturday. And then on Sunday, Joel and I are both getting haircuts, but that's in the afternoon, so we might have a little time in the morning. I think by Sunday, I'll probably get back into Now in November. I do want to finish this before we leave for Italy, but I have 2 weeks, so that's fine. So Sunday, I'll probably pick that back up. And I think around the same time, I might be ready to get back to The Marriage Portrait. I just wanted to give myself that time and that grace period to just not read and allow that to be okay. So that's what I did. And if you're wondering what I've been doing instead, I have actually been listening to a podcast that I had not really previously listened to. So I believe I have mentioned that I listened to a podcast called You're Wrong About. I really like that podcast. So one of the hosts of that started a second podcast with a different co-host while he was still doing You're Wrong About. Earlier this year, he decided to leave You're Wrong About and focus on this other podcast. So I still listen to You're Wrong About, but I got curious about his new podcast because actually they kind of did a crossover. He came back to do an episode of You're Wrong About. And that just got me. Originally, I didn't feel interested in this new podcast, which is called Maintenance Phase, because it is specifically about health and wellness, and I'm not super into that. But I am a huge fan of You're Wrong About, and I am familiar with his work. So I got curious, and I went back and listened to it, and that has actually been sort of my comfort listen because I can binge it. Like I've gone through almost every episode at this point, which is another reason I think I'll be ready for Marriage Portrait by Sunday, because by Sunday I should be caught up to every episode of Maintenance Phase. I've gone in that hard. So it's about health and wellness. They debunk a lot of things about the health and wellness industry. Like there was an episode dedicated to like snake oil, which turns out it's a real thing. And the history of it is a lot more complicated. I love that kind of thing. And I think in another lifetime, I could have been the sort of methodology queen that the hosts are. They really dig into the research. And I find it interesting because it also gives you this idea that you really can't trust a lot of statistics that are given to you unless you dig into the research and look into it for yourself. Because a lot of things that get used in research and published in papers, once you get into the data, don't really hold up. So it's difficult to actually know anything. And I am a bit of a chaos agent with that. I think it's okay not to know everything. I think it's very difficult to have black and white answers to anything. And yes, that creates a lot of uncertainty, but I think ultimately we have to be okay with uncertainty. And if you're not okay with uncertainty, it's going to be really difficult in life. So maybe it's almost like a self-defense mechanism. I just say, you know what? It is what it is. But I've really appreciated that. And another thing it's done is, so one of the other host, Aubrey Gordon, she describes herself as a fat girl around town. Says she has been fat her entire life and gone on all of fad diets. She actually tried fen-phen. Her parents put her on it when she was in high school. She has had disordered eating and struggled with that a lot in the past. So as they go through, she talks about and relates it to her own experience of the world and the way people treat her because of her weight. And it has really made me rethink how I think about health and wellness and appearance as well, because I think we have really been taught that it is only acceptable to look a certain way in terms of weight. And it is a little more complicated for me as well, because since 2020, when the pandemic started, I have gained 30 pounds. And the last 10 came on this year. And I am totally aware. You really can't tell. You can't really tell. Because when I'm filming a video, it's from here up. I can tell. And I have kind of struggled with that, especially since I know the last 10 were definitely like emotional, because Guinness was sick and getting worse. And I knew he wasn't going to be around for long. And I'm not going to talk about that because I will get upset. So I've kind of struggled with that. And it has also helped me rethink a lot of things that I've been harsh on myself about since I've gained 30 pounds, since the pandemic started or lockdown started in 2020. There are a lot of reasons that it happened. But it does also feel like it has given me permission not to feel bad about myself. Like I can fix it if I want to. I would like to, but I don't feel so bad about myself anymore. And I think that was also something that turns out to have been essential for me. So that's what I've been doing instead. We also bought a backgammon board. So we've been playing backgammon in the evenings some nights, and that's been a lot of fun. I had never played backgammon in person. I had only ever played it on an app on my phone. So it was really interesting to play it against a person, Joel, and especially because it turns out he and I have very similar strategic approaches to playing backgammon. And all this time we've known each other, just finding that out now. So that's been fun. So yeah, not a lot to report on the reading front, but I hope you understand why I didn't read very much this week. I'm glad that I took the break. And, the other thing is, I think given the level of sort of stress, anxiety, depression, all that, I also find, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this, but I also find that negative comments that come in on my channel have really impacted me much harder than they ordinarily would. The overwhelming amount of comments that I get on my channel are positive, and I really appreciate that. But when a negative one comes in, even one that's not entirely negative or maybe not even intended to be negative, but the wording is a little harsh, it just like hits me. So I haven't caught up on comments like I had intended to do this week. And I think what's going to end up happening is, because I'm probably going to continue to do that through the week and just take a break from comments through the weekend. So probably next week, I'm just going to start fresh. And I will read comments as they come in, but I might not respond to them. So please understand, because the comments are honestly one of the things that really helps me keep going with this channel, because I got into BookTube for that sense of community. So I don't want to discourage people from leaving comments. It's just that it's a little easy to feel overwhelmed right now. And then when I do stumble into one that's even approaching negative, it does hit me. So I gave myself a little bit of a break from that as well. So I'll be back. And this week, I know I'm also going to be busy because I have a bunch of ideas for things that we can film, that I can schedule in advance for when I'm gone for 2 weeks, because I will be gone for the first 2 weeks of October. And I want to keep pushing content out. So again, I might be bad about comments while I'm traveling. Please understand about that. Don't go away, please. I'll get better about the comments, but I hope you understand why it is what it is for right now. But I would also love to hear what you have been reading this week, what you've been watching, enjoying, what you think of the National Book Award long list, and all of that. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your understanding. Everybody has been really comforting, I will say, since we lost Guinness, and since the last 2 Friday reads, when I've mentioned that I've been just kind of struggling emotionally and mentally lately. And it is getting better. I had my second appointment with my therapist this week, and I think she's a good one. I think it's going to be very beneficial for me. So I just really appreciate all the help and support and positivity. So I really do appreciate it. And I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.